Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
The warm aroma of freshly baked cinnamon rolls drifted through Brenda's cafe, mingling with the rich scent of freshly brewed coffee. Blake inhaled deeply, savoring the familiar smells as he settled into a worn leather booth alongside his family. His sister, Brenda, bustled over, a pot of steaming coffee in hand. "The usual for everyone?" Brenda asked, her eyes sparkling with cheer. Blake nodded and reached across the table to take his wife Vanessa's hand. Her fingers felt cool against his, her wedding ring catching the soft glow of the morning light. "You know us too well, sis," Blake said with a smile. 12-year-old Ellie chimed in, "Can I have extra whipped cream on my hot chocolate, Aunt Brenda?" "Me too," added 8-year-old Noah, eager not to be left out. Brenda chuckled, ruffling Noah's hair. "You got it, kiddos. But do not tell your dentist." As she disappeared into the kitchen, Blake turned to his wife. "How has work been? Is that new development keeping you busy?" Vanessa's smile seemed just a bit too tight. "Oh, you know how it is, always another house to show, another deal to close." She glanced at her watch. "Speaking of which, I should probably head out soon. I have a client meeting at 10. Blake's brow furrowed. "On a Sunday? I thought we were going to take the kids to the park after breakfast." "I know, I'm sorry," she replied, her tone clipped. "But this could be a big sale. You understand, right?" Before Blake could respond, Ellie interrupted, "Mom, you promised to help me pick out an outfit for picture day tomorrow." Vanessa's expression softened as she looked at her daughter. "Oh, sweetie, I forgot. Tell you what, why do we not go shopping this afternoon? We can make it a girls' day out." Noah's face fell. "But what about the park?" Blake quickly stepped in, forcing a smile. "Hey, buddy, how about you and I have a guys' day instead? We can shoot some hoops in the driveway and maybe fire up the grill for lunch. What do you say?" Noah's eyes lit up. "Can we invite Uncle Mike?" "You bet," Blake said, tousling his son's hair. He looked over at Vanessa, a hint of disappointment lingering in his eyes. "I guess we will see you this evening, then?" Vanessa nodded, not quite meeting his gaze. "I will try not to be too late." Brenda returned with a tray laden with steaming mugs and plates piled high with fluffy pancakes and crispy bacon. As she set the food down, she gave Blake a questioning glance. He shook his head subtly, silently signaling that everything was fine. As the family began eating, the mood lightened. Ellie chattered excitedly about her upcoming science fair project, while Noah shared dramatic tales from his latest Little League game. Blake let himself relax, pushing aside his unease to focus on the present moment with his children. When breakfast was over, Vanessa gathered her things and stood to leave. She kissed the kids goodbye, then gave Blake a quick peck on the cheek. "I will call you later, all right?" Blake nodded, watching as she hurried out of the cafe. Still, a nagging feeling stirred in his chest. Something felt off, but he pushed the thought aside. They had a good life, a happy family. He was probably just overthinking it. Brenda slid into the booth beside him as the kids cleared their plates. "Everything okay, little brother?" she asked quietly. Blake forced a smile. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" Brenda raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You are not fooling me, Blake. I have known you your entire life. Something is bothering you." He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "It is probably nothing. Vanessa has just been working a lot lately. I am sure it will settle down soon." Brenda squeezed his shoulder. "Well, you know I'm always here if you need to talk, or if you need someone to knock some sense into that thick skull of yours." Blake chuckled, grateful for his sister's support. "Thanks, Brenda. I will keep that in mind." As they left the cafe, the uneasy feeling in Blake's stomach lingered, but he tried to shake it off, focusing instead on the day ahead with his children. 2 weeks later, Blake was elbow-deep in the engine of an old Ford, the familiar scent of motor oil and grease thick in the air of his workshop. An old country song crackled on the radio, and he hummed along absent-mindedly. The sharp sound of heels clicking on the concrete floor drew his attention. He looked up to see Lisa Grant, Vanessa's best friend and colleague, approaching with a hesitant smile. "Hey there, Blake," Lisa called out. "Got a minute?" Blake wiped his hands on a rag, curiosity piqued. "Sure, Lisa. What brings you by?" Lisa fidgeted with the strap of her purse. "I was hoping to catch Vanessa. We were supposed to meet for coffee, but she is not answering her phone. I thought maybe she was here with you." Blake frowned. "She told me she had a late showing today, said she would not be home until after dinner." Lisa's brow creased. "That is odd. She specifically asked me to meet her at Brenda's cafe at 4. She said she needed to talk about something important." A knot formed in Blake's stomach. Maybe she got the dates mixed up, or maybe a client showed up last minute. Lisa nodded, though her expression remained doubtful. "Yeah, maybe. Well, if you see her, can you let her know I stopped by?" "Of course," Blake replied, forcing a smile. As Lisa turned to go, he called out, "Hey, Lisa, has Vanessa seemed different to you lately?" Lisa paused, biting her lip. "Different how?" Blake shrugged, trying to sound casual. "I do not know, distracted, maybe. We have not been spending much time together lately, and I just wondered if something was going on at work." Lisa's expression was unreadable. "I am sure it is just the stress of the job, Blake. You know how real estate is. There is always another deal, another client." Blake nodded, not entirely reassured. "Yeah, you are probably right. Thanks, Lisa." After she left, Blake stood still for a moment, unable to shake the gnawing sense of unease. He pulled out his phone and hovered his thumb over Vanessa's name but hesitated. He was probably just being paranoid. The following evening, Blake found himself at Old AL's, a local bar, with his friend Mike. They had just wrapped up a rough game of pickup basketball, and Blake was nursing a beer, trying to unwind. "So," Mike said, taking a sip of his own drink, "how are things with you and Vanessa?" Blake shrugged. "Fine, I guess. She has been working a lot lately." Mike raised an eyebrow. "You guess? That does not sound like the Blake I know. Come on, what is really going on?" Blake sighed, fiddling with his wedding ring. "I do not know, man. Something just feels off. Vanessa is always busy, always distracted. We barely talk, and when we do, it feels like she is a million miles away. Have you tried talking to her about it?" Blake shook his head. "Every time I bring it up, she says it is just work stress. But I cannot shake the feeling that there is more to it." Mike leaned in, lowering his voice. "You do not think she is, cheating?" Blake scoffed, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. "No way. Vanessa would never do that. We have been together since high school." "People change, Blake," Mike said gently. "I am not saying she is, but maybe you should trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is." Before Blake could respond, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Vanessa, working late again. "Do not wait up." Blake stared at the message, a sinking feeling settling in his stomach. He looked up to see Mike watching him with concern. "Everything okay?" Mike asked. Blake forced a smile. "Yeah. Just Vanessa letting me know she's working late again." Mike's expression softened. "Look, man, I hope I am wrong. But maybe you should do some digging, for your own peace of mind, if nothing else." Blake nodded, his mind already racing. "Yeah. Maybe you are right." As they left the bar, Blake could not shake the nagging doubt that had taken root in his heart. He loved Vanessa. He trusted her completely. But what if Mike was right? What if people really did change? On a whim, he decided to swing by Vanessa's office on his way home, just to check. As he pulled into the parking lot, he noticed her car was gone. The knot in his stomach tightened. Blake took out his phone and hesitated before dialing her number. It rang several times before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," he said after the beep. "Just wanted to check in. Give me a call when you can." As he hung up, his eyes caught sight of a familiar figure across the street. It was Curtis Blackwood, a local mortgage broker Blake had met a few times at Vanessa's work events. Kartis was climbing into his flashy sports car with a wide grin on his face. Blake watched as the man drove off, unease creeping over him. He could not explain why, but seeing Kartis there at that hour triggered alarm bells in his head. As he drove home, his thoughts spiraled through endless possibilities. He tried to hold on to the trust and love he and Vanessa had built over the years, but the seed of doubt had been planted. No matter how hard he tried, Blake could not ignore the gnawing feeling that his perfect life might not be so perfect after all. 1 week later, Blake sat across from Hank Morrison, a private investigator recommended by a friend. The detective's office was small and cluttered, with filing cabinets lining the walls and a worn leather chair creaking beneath Hank's weight. "So, Mr. Kincaid," Hank began in a gruff voice. "Tell me why you are here." Blake shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. "I think my wife might be involved with someone else." Hank nodded, his expression unreadable. "What makes you suspect that?" Blake took a deep breath. "She's been working late more often, always on her phone. We barely talk anymore. And last week, I saw her colleague's car near a hotel when she was supposed to be at a showing. Have you confronted her about it?" Blake shook his head. "I want to be sure first. I do not want to accuse her if I am wrong." Hank leaned back in his chair. "All right. Here's what I can do. I will tail her for a week, gather evidence, photos, recordings, the works. But I have to warn you, Mr. Kincaid, sometimes the truth is not easy to hear." Blake nodded, his jaw set. "I need to know, Mr. Morrison. No matter what it is." As Blake left the office, his phone buzzed. It was another text from Vanessa. "Hey honey, late meeting again. Do not wait up for dinner." Blake's hand tightened around the phone. He typed a quick response, "Okay. Love you," and put the device away, his heart heavy. The next few days blurred into a haze of anxiety and suspicion. Blake found himself analyzing every word, every glance, every movement from Vanessa, searching for clues. She seemed oblivious to the storm brewing inside him, going about her routines as if nothing were wrong. On Friday evening, Blake's phone rang. It was Hank. "Mr. Kincaid, I think you should come to my office. There is something you need to see." Blake's heart pounded as he drove to the detective's office. Hank was waiting with a grim expression and slid a manila envelope across the desk. "I am sorry, Mr. Kincaid," Hank said. "But you were right to be suspicious." With trembling hands, Blake opened the envelope. Inside were photographs of Vanessa and Curtis Blackwood in intimate embraces outside a motel. Timestamps. Locations. Cold, undeniable proof laid out in stark black and white. Blake felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. "How long?" he managed to ask, barely above a whisper. Hank sighed. "Based on what I have gathered, at least a few months. Possibly longer." Blake nodded slowly, the weight of it all crashing down. "Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I need to go." As he drove home, his thoughts spiraled. How could Vanessa do this? To him? To their children? To the life they had built together? It all felt like a cruel, twisted joke. When he pulled into the driveway, her car was already there. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Inside the kitchen, Vanessa was humming softly as she prepared dinner. The casualness of it all made Blake's blood boil. "Hey, honey," Vanessa said cheerfully as she turned to greet him, her smile faltering the moment she saw his expression. "Blake? What is wrong?" He slammed the envelope onto the counter. "Why do you not tell me, Vanessa?" Her face turned pale as she opened the envelope, hands trembling as she looked through the photos. "Blake, I can explain." "Explain?" Blake's voice was low and dangerous. "Explain how you have been lying to me for months? Sneaking around with Curtis Blackwood behind my back?" Tears filled Vanessa's eyes. "I am sorry, Blake. I never meant for this to happen. Never meant for what to happen," he shouted, his composure cracking. "Never meant to cheat on me. Never meant to destroy our family. It is not like that," Vanessa cried. "You do not understand. I felt trapped. Suffocated. Curtis," He made me feel alive again. Blake let out a bitter laugh. And I made you feel what? Dead? Was our life together really that unbearable that you had to look for life in someone else's bed? Vanessa's expression hardened. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I have been seeing Kartis. And you know what? I do not regret it. He understands me in a way you never have. Blake felt like he had been slapped. What about our children, Vanessa? Did you even think about them while you were out there trying to feel alive with Kartis? Do not you dare bring the kids into this, Vanessa hissed. They have nothing to do with it. They have everything to do with it. Blake roared. You did not just betray me, Vanessa, you betrayed our entire family. Vanessa's eyes flashed with anger. You want to know why I did it? Because I am sick of this life, Blake. Sick of the same routine day after day. Sick of being nothing more than a wife and a mother. Is that what you want to hear? Blake stared at her, suddenly seeing a stranger where his wife once stood. So what now? You want a divorce? Vanessa lifted her chin. Maybe I do. Maybe it is time we both admit that this is not working anymore. A surge of steel ran through Blake. Fine. You want out, you got it. But do not think for a second that I will let you take the kids away from me. Vanessa's voice was cold. We will see about that. Vanessa sneered. I am their mother. The courts always side with the mother. We will see, Blake echoed, his voice icy. But I promise you this, Vanessa, I am going to fight for my children with everything I have. And I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you truly are. As he stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Vanessa staring in silence, a storm of emotions churned within him, anger, betrayal, heartbreak, but underneath it all, a steely resolve had begun to take shape. He would not let Vanessa destroy his life. Later that day, Blake sat in his truck, parked outside a modest suburban home. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he stared at the front door, gathering his courage. Finally, he took a deep breath and stepped out. As he approached the porch, the door opened. A woman with kind eyes and a hesitant smile greeted him. Mr. Kincaid? She asked softly. Blake nodded. Mrs. Blackwood, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. She stepped aside to let him in. Please, call me Marissa. Can I get you something to drink? No, thank you, Blake replied as he followed her to the living room. I appreciate you taking the time to see me, especially under these circumstances. Marissa's smile faltered. You said on the phone that you had information about my husband, about Kartis. Blake sat down, his expression grim. I do. And I'm sorry, but it is not good news. He pulled out the envelope of photos and handed it to her. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. What is this? She whispered. Evidence, Blake said gently but firmly. Our spouses have been having an affair. Marissa's eyes widened in disbelief as she flipped through the images. No, this cannot be real. Kartis would never. I did not want to believe it either, Blake said. But it is true. My wife Vanessa and your husband have been seeing each other for months. Tears welled in Marissa's eyes. How did you find out? I hired a private investigator, Blake admitted. I had my suspicions, but I needed to be sure. Marissa stared at the photographs, her voice hollow. And now you have your proof. I do, Blake said. And I'm sharing this with you because I think we can help each other. They betrayed both of us, Marissa. Do you not think they should face consequences? Her expression hardened. What do you have in mind? I want to expose them, not just to us, but to everyone. Show the world who they really are. Marissa hesitated. That seems extreme. Is it? Blake asked. They lied to us, made fools of us, and snuck around behind our backs. Do they not deserve to know what that feels like? Marissa stood and began pacing. But what about the children? Your kids, my stepchildren. This could hurt them. Blake's face softened. I have thought about that. But in the long run, they deserve to know the truth. And we can protect them as much as possible from the fallout. She stopped pacing and looked directly at him. What exactly are you proposing? We use social media, mutual contacts, local gossip. We let the truth come out. And once it spreads. And then? Marissa asked. Blake's eyes gleamed with conviction. Then we watched their perfect little world fall apart. Marissa was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. I am in. But we do this my way too, no unnecessary cruelty. We stick to the facts. Blake stood and extended his hand. Deal. We will make them regret ever betraying us. As their hands met in a firm shake, a silent understanding passed between them. They were no longer victims. They were now the architects of their revenge. So, where do we start? Marissa asked, her voice steady, a new fire in her eyes. Blake pulled out his phone. We start by making a few calls. I think it is time we had a chat with some mutual friends. As the plan took shape, the air between them crackled with a strange mix of pain and purpose. The web of revenge was being spun, and soon, Vanessa and Kartis would find themselves hopelessly entangled. The next morning, Blake's phone buzzed nonstop with notifications. He picked it up, a grim smile forming as he scrolled through dozens of messages and social media posts. It is working, he muttered. Just then, his phone rang. It was Lisa. Blake, she said, her voice shaky. What is going on? There are all these posts about Vanessa and Kartis. Blake took a deep breath. It is true, Lisa. All of it. Vanessa has been having an affair with Kartis for months. There was a long pause. Oh my God, Lisa whispered. I cannot believe it. I mean, I knew something was off, but this? I am sorry you had to find out this way, Blake said. But I thought you deserved to know the truth. No. I am glad you told me, Lisa replied, her voice hardening. I cannot believe Vanessa would do this, to you, to the kids, to me. I thought we were friends. Blake saw his chance. Lisa, I hate to ask, but I could really use your help. The divorce proceedings are about to start in. Say no more, Lisa cut in. I will testify. Whatever you need. Vanessa does not get to play the victim here. After they hung up, Blake dialed Marissa. How is it going on your end? He asked when she answered. Marissa's voice was tight. It is chaos. Kartis's phone has been ringing nonstop. He keeps trying to deny everything, but the evidence is damning. Good, Blake said. Let them squirm. Have you heard from any of his colleagues? A few, she replied. Most of them are shocked. Some are angry. I think Kartis's reputation at work is taking a serious hit. Just then, Blake's doorbell rang. I have to go, he told her. Keep me posted. He opened the door to find Vanessa standing there, her face twisted with fury. How dare you, she hissed, pushing past him into the house. How could you do this to me? Blake calmly closed the door. Do what, Vanessa? Tell the truth? She spun around to face him. You ruined everything. My career, my reputation. Do you even realize what you have done? I do, Blake said coldly. I exposed you for what you are, a liar and a cheater. This is not just about us. Vanessa shouted. What about the children? Did you even think about how this would affect them? Do not you dare bring the kids into this, Blake snapped. You lost the right to play the concerned mother card the moment you started sneaking around with Kartis. Vanessa's shoulders sagged. What do you want from me, Blake? I want a divorce, he said, his voice firm. And I want full custody of the children. Her head snapped up. No. No way. You cannot take my children from me. Watch me, Blake growled. I have already spoken with a lawyer. With the evidence I have, and witnesses like Lisa, you do not stand a chance. Vanessa's eyes widened. Lisa? She is testifying against me? Blake nodded. Turns out people do not like being lied to. Who would have guessed? Vanessa sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. This cannot be happening. Oh, it is, Blake said. And it is only going to get worse. I suggest you get a lawyer, Vanessa. Because I am not backing down. As she left, pale and defeated, Blake felt a mix of satisfaction and sorrow. This was never how he imagined his marriage would end. But if he was going down, he was going to fight for everything that mattered. His phone buzzed again. It was a message from his attorney. Angela Martinez saw the social media storm. Good work. Let's meet to discuss next steps. Blake replied quickly, then sat at his desk. Something told him this was only the beginning. A week later, Blake sat in a dimly lit bar, nursing a beer as he waited. The door swung open, and a sharply dressed man entered, scanning the room nervously before spotting him. Mr. Kincaid? The man asked, sliding into the booth across from him. Blake nodded. Mr. Doyle. Thank you for meeting me. Frank Doyle, Curtis's business partner, looked uneasy. I am not sure why I am here. If this is about Curtis and your wife. Blake raised a hand. It is related, but not in the way you think. I have information you might want to hear. Frank's eyebrows lifted. What kind of information? Blake leaned in, lowering his voice. The kind that could save your business and possibly land Curtis in jail. Frank's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Curtis and Vanessa, Blake said slowly, are planning to embezzle money from your firm. They want to use it to start a new life together. Frank went pale. That is a serious accusation. Do you have proof? Blake nodded. I do. But before I show you, I need to know, are you willing to help me stop them? Frank was silent for a long moment, his fingers drumming on the table. Finally, he spoke. What do you need me to do? Blake gave a grim smile. Play along. Pretend you're on board with their plan. Let them think they're getting away with it. And then what? Frank asked. Then we catch them red-handed, Blake said, his tone resolute. With enough evidence to put them away for a long time. Frank ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. I could lose everything if this goes wrong. You could lose everything if you do nothing, Blake countered. At least this way, you have a chance to save your reputation and your company. Frank sighed heavily. All right. I'm in. But I want to see the proof first. Blake pulled a USB drive from his coat pocket and slid it across the table. Everything's on there. Emails, bank statements, recorded conversations. Take a look, and then we'll talk strategy. As Frank left with the drive in hand, Blake felt a strange mixture of anticipation and dread. The trap was set. Now, all they had to do was wait for Curtis and Vanessa to spring it. The next day, Blake met Marissa at a quiet coffee shop. How did it go with Frank? Marissa asked, stirring her latte absently. Blake leaned back in his chair. Better than expected. He's on board. Now, we just need to let Curtis and Vanessa dig their own graves. Marissa nodded, her expression troubled. I still can't believe they go this far. Embezzlement? It's like I never really knew Curtis. People can surprise you, Blake said grimly. And not always in a good way. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Frank. Curtis took the bait. Meeting set for Friday to discuss the investment opportunity. Blake showed her the message. Looks like things are moving faster than we thought. Marissa's hand trembled slightly as she set her cup down. Are we really doing this? Setting them up to go to jail? Blake's eyes softened. We're not setting them up, Marissa. We're just giving them the chance to expose who they really are. They're the ones breaking the law, we're just making sure the truth comes out. Marissa nodded slowly. You're right. I just never imagined I'd be in this position. None of us did, Blake said. But we have to see it through, if not for ourselves, then for the kids. As they left the cafe, Blake couldn't shake the feeling that they were fast approaching a point of no return. The web of revenge was tightening, and soon, Curtis and Vanessa would find themselves hopelessly caught in it. Later that evening, Blake received a call from Frank. They're moving fast, Frank said without preamble. Kartis wants to transfer the funds this weekend. Blake's heart pounded. Can you stall him? I've tried, Frank replied, frustration creeping into his voice. But he's pushing hard, says they need to act before anyone gets suspicious. Blake paced his living room, mind racing. Okay. Here's what we do, let him think it's happening. But we alert the authorities. Can you do that without tipping them off? I think so, Frank said. I know someone in the white-collar crimes unit. I'll give him a heads up and frame it like a routine audit. Perfect, Blake said. And Frank, thank you. I know this isn't easy. After hanging up, Blake immediately called Marissa. It's happening, he said. This weekend. Her voice was tight. Are you sure we're doing the right thing? Blake sighed. Honestly, I don't know. But I do know what they're planning is illegal. And if we don't stop them, who will? He ended the call and glanced at the family photo on the mantle, Vanessa, the kids, and himself, smiling in what now felt like another lifetime. I'm sorry it came to this, he whispered to the picture. But you left me no choice. Early Monday morning, Blake's phone rang. Hello, he answered groggily. Blake, it's Frank. You need to turn on the news, now. Fully awake, Blake grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. His eyes widened at the headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Local business rocked by embezzlement scandal. A determined young reporter filled the screen. This is Emily Green reporting live from outside Blackwood Mortgage Services. In a shocking turn of events, Kartis Blackwood, the company's founder, has been arrested on charges of embezzlement. Blake's phone buzzed again. It was a text from Marissa. Are you seeing this? Yes. Can you come over? He replied. 20 minutes later, Marissa arrived looking pale and shaken. I can't believe it actually worked, she said, collapsing onto the couch. Blake nodded grimly. Frank came through. He tipped off the reporter, Emily Green. Marissa blinked. How did she get the details so fast? Blake hesitated. I may have helped. I reached out to her last week, just gave her a bit of background. Enough to pique her interest. Blake, that was risky. What if she'd gone public too soon? I didn't give her anything concrete, he reassured. She did the digging on her own. Just then, his phone rang again. It was Lisa. Blake, have you seen the news? It's everywhere. Vanessa's been arrested too. Blake's heart stopped. What? When? Just now, Lisa said. They came to her office and took her out in handcuffs. It's chaos here. He hung up and turned to Marissa. They got Vanessa too. It's really happening. Marissa's expression was a mixture of shock, relief, and sorrow. Do you think we went too far? Before Blake could respond, there was a knock at the door. He opened it to find Emily Green standing there, notepad in hand. Mr. Kincaid, I'm Emily Green from Channel 5 News. I was hoping to get a statement regarding the arrest of Kartis Blackwood and Vanessa Kincaid. Blake hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in, Ms. Green. I think it's time the whole story came out. As Emily set up her recording equipment, Blake and Marissa exchanged a look. There was no turning back now. Mr. Kincaid, Emily began. Can you tell us how you first became aware of the embezzlement scheme? Blake took a deep breath. It all started when I discovered my wife was having an affair with Kartis Blackwood. As I dug deeper, I uncovered not just infidelity, but a web of financial fraud and deceit. And how did you gather the evidence? Emily asked. It wasn't just me, Blake said, gesturing to Marissa. This is Marissa Blackwood, Kartis's wife. We worked together, along with Frank Doyle, Kartis's business partner, to expose the truth. Marissa spoke up, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. We couldn't sit back and let them destroy lives. We had to act. Emily turned to her. This must be incredibly difficult. How are you coping? Marissa's eyes shimmered with tears. It's been a shock. But I'm relieved the truth is finally out. Kartis made his choices. Now he has to face the consequences. As the interview wrapped up, Blake felt a strange calm wash over him, relief that justice was in motion, sorrow for the damage done, and a growing sense of responsibility for what came next. After Emily left, promising to air the interview that evening, Blake turned to Marissa. "You all right?" "I think so," she said softly. "It feels freeing, like a weight has lifted." Just then, Blake's phone buzzed again. It was a message from his lawyer. "Angela saw the news. We need to discuss custody next steps. Can you come in tomorrow?" Blake showed Marissa the message. "Looks like this is just the beginning." She squeezed his hand. "We'll get through it, Blake. One step at a time." As she left, Blake stood by the window, watching as neighbors gathered in small groups, no doubt discussing the scandal that had rocked their quiet town. He knew the coming days would be filled with scrutiny, judgment, and painful conversations with his children. But for the first time in months, he felt a flicker of hope. The truth was out. Now, he could begin to rebuild and protect what mattered most. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Blake sat beside his attorney, Angela Martinez. Across the aisle, Vanessa glared at him, her once immaculate appearance now disheveled. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, called the court to order. "We are here today to determine custody arrangements for Ellie and Noah Kincaid. Mr. Kincaid is seeking full custody, with restricted visitation from Mrs. Kincaid. Mrs. Kincaid is seeking joint custody. Let us begin with opening statements." Angela rose to her feet, her voice clear and unwavering. "Your Honor, we intend to demonstrate that Mrs. Kincaid's recent actions, including her extramarital affair and involvement in financial crimes, make her an unfit parent. Mr. Kincaid has been a stable and loving presence in his children's lives," Angela Martinez stated firmly. "Granting him full custody is in their best interest." Vanessa's attorney, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, stood to respond. "Your Honor, while my client has made mistakes, she remains a loving mother. Her actions, regrettable as they may be, do not negate her ability to care for her children. We ask the court to consider joint custody as the most balanced solution for Ellie and Noah." As witness testimonies began, Blake found himself reliving the painful events of the past several months. Lisa was the first to take the stand. "Miss Grant," Angela began. "How long have you known Vanessa Kincaid?" Lisa glanced briefly at Vanessa before answering. "Almost 10 years. We've been colleagues and friends since she started at the real estate agency." "And in your opinion, how has Mrs. Kincaid's behavior changed recently?" Lisa took a breath. "Vanessa became distant, secretive. She started canceling plans last minute, always claiming it was a work emergency. But now, I know she was meeting Kartis." Vanessa's lawyer stood to cross-examine. "Miss Grant, is it not true that real estate can be a demanding career? Could these emergencies not have been legitimate?" Lisa hesitated. "I suppose it's possible, but—" No further questions, he interrupted. Next, Marissa Blackwood was called to the stand. Angela approached her gently. "Mrs. Blackwood, can you describe your interactions with Vanessa Kincaid?" Marissa nodded. "At first, I thought Vanessa was just a client of my husband's. But as I uncovered the affair and the embezzlement scheme, it became clear she was actively participating, defrauding our company and planning to leave her family behind." Vanessa's lawyer pounced. "Mrs. Blackwood, is it not true that you have a personal interest in portraying Mrs. Kincaid negatively, given her involvement with your husband?" Marissa's eyes flashed. "My only interest is in the truth, and in protecting innocent people, including Blake's children." As the testimonies continued, Blake himself was called to the stand. Angela gave him a small, reassuring smile. "Mr. Kincaid, can you describe your relationship with your children?" Blake's voice softened. "Ellie and Noah mean everything to me. I've always been there for them, from Little League games to science fairs. Even when things became difficult with Vanessa, I made sure they always felt loved and supported." "And how have you been managing since the separation?" "It's been challenging," Blake admitted. "But I've kept their routines consistent. I arranged counseling to help them process everything that's happened." Vanessa's lawyer approached next, his tone sharp. "Mr. Kincaid, is it not true that you've been turning your children against their mother? Poisoning them with details of her affair?" Blake's jaw clenched. "Absolutely not. I've been honest with them in an age-appropriate way. I've never spoken poorly about Vanessa. They love their mother, and I respect that." As he stepped down, Blake's eyes met Vanessa's. For a moment, he saw the woman he once loved, lost and afraid. But then her expression hardened, and the moment passed. The judge called a recess to review the evidence. As they waited, Angela leaned toward Blake. "You did well. I think we have a strong case." Blake nodded, his stomach in knots. "I just want what's best for the kids." When court resumed, the judge cleared her throat. "After careful consideration of the evidence presented, I've reached a decision. While both parents clearly love their children, recent events demonstrate a pattern of instability and poor judgment on Mrs. Kincaid's part." Blake held his breath. "Therefore, I am awarding full custody to Mr. Kincaid. Mrs. Kincaid will have supervised visitation until she can demonstrate emotional and financial stability. Mr. Kincaid, I trust you will continue to encourage a healthy relationship between the children and their mother." Blake stood. "Of course, Your Honor." As the court adjourned, Blake felt a surge of both relief and sorrow. He had won, but at a cost. Vanessa approached, her eyes brimming with tears. "Are you happy now?" she hissed. "You've taken everything from me." Blake shook his head. "This isn't about happiness, Vanessa. It's about protecting our kids. I hope, one day, you'll understand that." Vanessa stormed off. Angela placed a hand on Blake's shoulder. "It's over, Blake. You did the right thing." He nodded, voice thick with emotion. "Now comes the hard part, helping the kids through this." The courtroom fell silent as Kartis Blackwood was led in, handcuffed and wearing an orange jumpsuit. Blake sat in the gallery beside Marissa, both of them tense and prepared to testify. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, rose to deliver her opening statement. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, over the next few days, you'll hear evidence of a sophisticated embezzlement scheme orchestrated by the defendant, Kartis Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood abused his position of trust, stealing millions from clients in his own company. We will prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that he is guilty of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." Kartis's defense attorney, a silver-haired man with a gravelly voice, responded. "The prosecution's case is built on circumstantial evidence and the testimony of scorned spouses. Mr. Blackwood is a respected businessman who was targeted by a bitter and vindictive plot. We will show he is innocent of all charges." Blake was called to the stand. The prosecutor approached. "Mr. Kincaid, can you tell us how you first became aware of Mr. Blackwood's illegal activities?" Blake cleared his throat. "It started when I discovered my wife was having an affair with Mr. Blackwood. As I began investigating, I noticed financial discrepancies and overheard conversations about moving large sums of money." "And what did you do with this information?" "I brought it to Mr. Blackwood's business partner, Frank Doyle. Together, we gathered more evidence and contacted authorities." The defense attorney stood for cross-examination. "Mr. Kincaid, is it not true that you had a personal vendetta against my client, that this entire case is about revenge?" Blake's jaw tightened. "This is about the truth. Yes, I was hurt. But the embezzlement scheme is a separate issue. I could not stand by and let innocent people be defrauded." Next, Frank Doyle testified. "As Kartis's partner, what raised your suspicions?" the prosecutor asked. Frank sighed. "At first, it was small things, bookkeeping discrepancies, client complaints. But after Blake came forward, it all started to make sense. We staged a sting operation to catch Kartis in the act." The defense jumped in. "Mr. Doyle, do you not benefit from Mr. Blackwood's downfall? You now control the company, do you not?" Frank's eyes narrowed. "I never wanted this. Kartis was my friend. But I could not ignore the truth." Financial experts followed, detailing the complicated web of transactions Kartis used to hide stolen funds. Bank records and emails backed up every claim. Finally, Marissa was called. Mrs. Blackwood, the prosecutor said gently. Can you tell us when you first became aware of your husband's crimes? Marissa's voice trembled. At first, I had no idea. Kartis kept work separate. But when Blake approached me with evidence of the affair, I started putting the pieces together. When I confronted Kartis, he admitted everything. Said it was all for us, for our future. But I knew it was wrong. The defense pounced. Mrs. Blackwood, did you not enjoy the lifestyle your husband's success afforded you? Were you not complicit, even if unknowingly? I enjoyed what I believed was earned legitimately, she snapped. If I had known he was stealing, I would have turned him in myself. As the trial neared its end, closing arguments were delivered. The prosecution painted Kartis as a greedy manipulator. The defense claimed he was the victim of vengeance and exaggeration. The jury retired to deliberate. Outside the courtroom, Marissa sat beside Blake, wringing her hands. Do you think they'll convict him? She asked, barely above a whisper. Blake squeezed Marissa's hand. The evidence is strong. We have to trust the system. Hours passed in tense silence before the jury returned. Blake held his breath as the foreperson rose to read the verdict. On the charge of embezzlement, we find the defendant, Kartis Blackwood, guilty. On the charge of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Kartis slumped in his chair, his face ashen. The judge's voice cut through the murmurs. Mr. Blackwood, please rise for sentencing. Kartis stood, legs trembling visibly. Kartis Blackwood, your actions caused immeasurable harm to your clients, business partners, and this community. You abused your position of trust for personal gain, displaying a callous disregard for those who depended on you. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 10 years. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $5.2 million. As Kartis was led away in cuffs, Blake turned to Marissa. It's over. Really over. Marissa nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I know I should feel relieved, but I just feel empty. Blake put a comforting arm around her shoulders. It's okay to feel that way. He was your husband. But you did the right thing, Marissa, we both did. As they exited the courthouse, reporters swarmed around them. Cameras flashed, microphones stretched their way. No comment, Blake said firmly, shielding Marissa with his arm and guiding her through the crowd. Once they were clear, Marissa turned to him. So, what now? Blake sighed. Now, we try to move forward, one day at a time. As they parted ways, Blake felt a heavy weight lift from his shoulders. The long nightmare was finally behind him. Now came the hard part, rebuilding his life and helping his children heal. 6 months later, Blake stood in front of his newly opened auto repair shop, Concade Honest Mechanics. The fresh paint gleamed in the morning sun as he unlocked the doors for another day of business. His phone buzzed. A message from Brenda lit up the screen. Grand opening day. So proud of you, little brother. I'll bring coffee and donuts later. Blake smiled and typed back a quick, thanks. As he stepped inside, a familiar voice called from the back office. Dad, can I sweep the floor again? Noah asked eagerly. Blake ruffled his son's hair. Sure, buddy. Just be careful around the tools, okay? Ellie looked up from her homework, spread across the desk. Dad, can we go to the park later? I finished my science project early. That's great, sweetheart. If it's not too busy here, we'll definitely go. As Blake began prepping the shop, the bell above the door chimed. Marissa walked in carrying a stack of flyers. Morning, Blake. I brought those promotional flyers we talked about. Blake grinned. Thanks, Marissa. How's the new business going? Marissa's eyes lit up. The bakery's doing great. I never thought I'd enjoy it so much, but it's been healing, in a way. Creating something positive after everything that happened. They were interrupted by another customer, a regular. Blake waved. Morning, Mr. Johnson. How's that transmission holding up? As Blake got to work, he found himself amazed by how far things had come. The shop was busy, his reputation for honest work spreading fast, and the community had shown him support every step of the way. Marissa had found joy in her baking, turning her hobby into a thriving small business. Later that afternoon, Brenda arrived with a box of donuts and 2 coffees. "Look at you, Mr. Businessman," she teased, setting the treats on the counter. Blake laughed. "Hardly. Just trying to make an honest living." Her smile softened. "Mom and Dad would be so proud of you. You've come through so much." Blake nodded, his throat tightening. "Couldn't have done it without you, sis." As he added a fresh receipt to the register, he noticed a woman enter the shop, hesitant, but warm-eyed and smiling gently. "Can I help you?" Blake asked. She nodded. "I'm Rachel. I'm the new counselor at Ellie and Noah's school. I just wanted to stop by and introduce myself. I've heard great things about your shop." Blake felt an unexpected flutter in his chest. "Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you, Rachel. How are the kids doing in school?" Rachel's smile widened. "They're wonderful, resilient, kind, and engaged. You should be proud." As they talked, Blake found himself enjoying Rachel's company. She was intelligent, compassionate, and genuinely interested in his children's well-being. After she left, Brenda raised an eyebrow. "She seems nice." Blake felt his cheeks warm. "Yeah, she does." As the day wound down, Blake closed up shop and headed home with the kids. While he prepared dinner, Ellie set the table, chattering about her science project, and Noah proudly showed off the sweeping he had done at the shop. "Dad?" Ellie said suddenly, her tone more serious. "Are you happy now?" Blake paused, considering her question. He looked at his daughter's earnest face, then glanced at Noah as he played with the salt shaker. "You know what, sweetie? I think I am. It's been a tough road, but we're doing okay, aren't we?" Both kids nodded enthusiastically. "And Mom?" Noah asked quietly. Blake sighed. "Your mom's working on getting better, remember? We're seeing her this weekend during your supervised visit. It'll take time, but we're all healing." As they ate dinner, laughing, sharing stories from their day, Blake felt something settle inside him. Life was not perfect, but it was peaceful. They were moving forward, one day at a time. Later that night, after tucking the kids into bed, his phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "It was great meeting you today. Would you like to grab coffee sometime?" Blake smiled as he typed his response. "I'd like that. How about Saturday after the kids visit with their mom?" As he set his phone down, he felt something he had not felt in a long time: hope. He had his children, his sister, good friends like Marissa, and maybe, just maybe, a chance at new love with someone like Rachel. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for tonight, Blake was content. He had weathered the storm, protected his family, and come out stronger on the other side. As he drifted off to sleep, he felt truly at peace, for the first time in a very long while.